Jay here for Stretford, Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm not outside Old Trafford. I'm actually in the studio. And no, it's not because it's raining, because obviously, if we always came in the studio every time it was raining, we never do news outside Old Trafford. A bit of a change, though. Get involved in the comments and the chat because we are live, and I want to hear from you lot. And if you're not doing already, then make sure you are subscribing to the channel. We want to get to 750,000 subscribers by the end of the season. And with your support, yes, we can do it. There's a lot of stories, as always, about Manchester United Football Club this morning. And I'm going to be honest with you. Not many of them are positive. Yeah? Most of the stories doing the rounds are pretty negative. Normally you think an FA Cup semi-final weekend, a trip to Wembley, this would be, this week will be great. But looking forward to the FA Cup game, would be positive. Go to Wembley, one step away from the FA Cup final. We've got a game against Coventry, who, despite how bad United are, it's a winnable game, all the rest of it. No, it looks like it is drama central at Manchester United at the minute. Most of the press, most of the stories, most of the headlines seem to be focusing on the idea that there's a bit of a player revolt going on, as you may have gathered from our thumbnail, where there's probably about 3 or 4 players where there's question marks about whether they're fully on board with Erik Ten Hag, whether there's this fallout, whether there's a rift, all that sort of stuff. So we're going to get into all that. I'll explain what I'm on about, who the players are, and why these stories are sort of coming out. Make sure, like I said, you are hitting that like button as well. A few people in the chat already. The Buttery Biscuit Base says, good morning, Jay. Ross Murphy, morning, Jay. Alex, Marco. Dana says, I subscribe twice. Andy Smith says, make me happier, Jay. I'll try to, but I am but a mere mortal. Duncan D's notes, Mick Holohan. Tim Sykes says, cool, the news live. I've missed these. Yeah, good stuff. Get involved. The news is live, so we can have a live discussion. We can have a chat rather than just comment in. There's nothing wrong with that. It's all appreciated. We can actually go a little bit back and forth. I love this. Patrick Mulford says, morning, Jay. Absolute titan of the United fan base. It's a line that I often use when introducing someone. Right, let's talk about some of the stories that are doing the rounds. Let's talk about Ten Hag's future. There's a story here in the Metro. It says his future in the balance, despite talks with Manchester United board over summer recruitment. I think the Metro have maybe sort of aggregated a few stories here. I think this might have originally come from a discussion on the Athletic. If I can find it, I can't find the link now. I think it's gone or whatever. Anyway, there's a question here about whether Ten Hag is going to get fully backed by Ineos. Is he their man? Now, you're going to get lots of stories like this. I've picked the Metro one. I could have picked others because of what's going on results-wise. Manchester United are in a right rut when it comes to results, in the Premier League at least. I think we've got 1 win in 7. We've dropped points where we should have won games. Look at the Brentford game, even though we were horrible that game. Getting a goal in the 95th minute or whatever it was, you expect to win that, and then to concede in the 97th was ridiculous. The Chelsea game's the obvious one. We're winning going into the 97th minute, and we end up losing. Unbelievable. Then you've got a Liverpool game at Old Trafford. Again, we're winning. 84th minute, we're winning. We end up drawing. It's not the end of the world, but it is frustrating, especially when you see Liverpool as well just got beaten at Anfield off Crystal Palace. They're not unbeatable. They're there for the taking. We beat them in the FA Cup, albeit I know it was after extra time, but we can beat teams like Liverpool. We should be beating teams like Liverpool at Old Trafford. I think we should be beating everyone at Old Trafford, to be honest with you. So to have this run of results, really poor performances for a lot of these games, certainly for big parts of those games, and bad results. The Bournemouth game didn't do anything to silence the critics, did it? Yes, we came back from being behind twice, which is good. You've got to give the players credit for rallying round, but the performance wasn't great. And at times you felt like we were hanging on a little bit. There was all this controversy, if I can call it that, about the penalty decision. The ref gave a penalty, VAR looked at it, it wasn't a penalty. I don't know why there is any controversy around that. It was outside the area. It's not rocket science. You don't get a penalty for a foul outside the box, despite what Jamie Redknapp was saying. We saw the same thing in the Arsenal game yesterday. I think it was Villa were fouled outside the box, and they got a free kick. That's what happens. You don't like. It's just I don't know where there was any ambiguity here or confusion or debate around that. It's cut and dried. However, despite that, looking at just the performance at the Vitality wasn't great. Defensively, we're all over the gaff. Now, we know we've got injuries, so you've got to give the manager a little bit of leeway there. But you can't just sort of say, well, it's injuries. because you've still got to perform as Manchester United, and we're not doing that. And we've still got a lot of good players playing for Manchester United who aren't playing well at all. Get involved in the comments in the chat before I move on a little bit. I'm going to sort of circle back to that story in a different way, if that makes any sense, because there's this pressure on Ten Hag, his future's in the balance, and I'm going to get into some of the stories regarding players being unhappy. Chris Holt says, if the manager is sacked, these players stay. If the manager stays, at least some of them go. Tiger UK says, I'm failing to back anyone at the club from top to bottom. Just tired of this club being crap every year. Keno said it about the players a few years ago, says Daniel Riley. Yeah, Keno said these players threw Jose Mourinho under the bus and they'll do the same to Ole. I believe he said it when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was manager. You could argue that that kind of happened. Some may say it was Ole's fault, his tactics, whatever. Others may say the players need to take responsibility for it. Maybe there's a little bit of both in there. Now we're at the point where it feels like we have this every 2 or 3 years, don't we, at Manchester United? Where a manager comes in, he has a bit of success, he does relatively well in his first season, or maybe even in his second season. By the third, the wheels have come off, usually his second season. And it feels like this with Erik Ten Hag, and it looks as well like some of the players are doubting him. And we have that, again, where players are going like, I don't fancy this manager, or there's rumours of a rift and all the rest of it. Luke Morgan in the super chat says, Jay, how about you on the wing? I've seen how fast you walk down the Munich tunnel, serious pace. Yes, my days of running down the wing ended in about 1994. So I don't think I'm that guy, although I do like to bop down the Munich tunnel, usually because I'm a bit late getting to my seat or to stand in the TRA. Let's talk about players at rift. There's a story in the Mirror, and it sort of encompasses a few stories. There's this Marcus Rashford to PSG story here. You can see it there in the Mirror. Basically, the short and long of that is he ain't going to PSG. There was all these reports, rumours that PSG were in for him. He was going to go to PSG. They were looking to bring him in to replace Kylian Mbappe. And over the last couple of days, we've heard that ain't happening. PSG ain't going to buy him. They're not going to pay the money that would probably take to take Marcus Rashford to Paris. That's a non-starter. Now, I know there's a lot of fans out there, I've interacted with a lot of you who are not feeling Marcus Rashford, to say the least, at a minute, and I think would welcome him moving to PSG, but it ain't going to happen. Also, at the bottom of this article, I don't think I need to labour that point, he's not going to PSG. There's this Delot disagrees with Ten Hag story. Delot gave an interview, and he said about the amount of shots that conceded. He was asked about the fact that 20 shots conceded against Bournemouth, and he said, asked about, is that an issue? He said, I think that's a fact, something we are looking at. Maybe we are taking too many risks. Sometimes the gap between the defence and midfield is a little bit too big. Now, whenever you get a player commenting on sort of anything tactical, people look at that as a slight on the manager. Also, the manager sort of dismissed, innit, the idea that the amount of shots Manchester United were conceding was an issue. If you remember, I think it was after the Brentford game, it might have been the Chelsea game, forgive me, but he was asked about it. He said he wasn't concerned basically by the amount of shots Manchester United were conceding. I think we've conceded something like the third amount of shots of any club in Europe or any of the top 5 leagues. We concede a horrendous amount of shots, and now the issue with that is, it's fine if you're conceding shots and you're not conceding goals. If you concede, like, remember the Liverpool game at Anfield, where we conceded, I don't know, I forget, 30 shots or something stupid, and it was 0-0. When you go, well, it doesn't matter if you're conceding shots and they don't score. That's fine. I mean, it's not great, but you can at least go, look, they ain't scoring, so shut up. But when they are scoring, when Chelsea are putting 4 past you, when Bournemouth are putting 2 past you, then Liverpool as well at Old Trafford 2, Brentford obviously scored. That's when it's hard to defend that and say, well, it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter if you're conceding goals. Diogo Dalot's pointed that out. Seems to be a bit of a difference of opinion between Diogo and his manager. Some people look at that as, is this a rift? Is this another drama? Because we've had a lot of drama, haven't we, at Manchester United over the last couple of days in particular. So some people looking at that and saying that's a bit of a disagreement. I personally don't think it is. I don't think Diogo Dalot is trying to publicly disagree with the manager. I don't think he's like trying to cause any dramas or is even has an agenda or anything like that. I think he just asked the question and he just answered it in a sort of an honest, quick way. And I think when people go, well, that's not quite what the manager said. And I think whilst both things can't be true, you can still be on the same page if you're Delo and the manager. I think you can still, the manager can still want to see Diogo Delo playing for him, and Diogo Delo can still be listening to the manager. However, they may just sort of look at things a little bit differently. It's not great, but I don't think it's the end of the world. Do you remember the years ago when I think we drew with Wolves at home, and Paul Pogba had been made vice captain? There was rumours of him having a rift with Mourinho after the 2018 World Cup, and he came back from that World Cup, and them two weren't getting on. And Pogba questioned the tactics. He said we should be attacking more, whatever. And he was stripped to the vice captaincy. That felt like that had been brewing already. That's why it felt a little bit different. I don't think there's anything brewing here with Diogo Delo and Erik ten Hag. Ten Hag seems to really rate Delo, and Delo seems to do a pretty good job for him. So I know he didn't have the best game against Bournemouth, but I think this season he's been pretty good. So I wouldn't look too much into that. We've got a little bit of an update here because I wanted to get into some of the other issues. Now there was a point in after the game on Saturday where Alejandro Garnacho liked some tweets that were critical or seemed to be critical of the manager. Now I think we've had an update on that. I think he unliked the tweets in the end, and it says that I think United Plug have tweeted that. I think this has come via the MEN. I think this is via Sam Luckhurst. Erik ten Hag has addressed Alejandro Garnacho's social media activity with a Manchester United player personally. A United spokesman said spokesperson, very sexist of me that, wasn't it? Said the matter was dealt with internally, but declined to clarify whether Garnacho has been outright disciplined. United highlighted that Garnacho had swiftly unliked the tweets. So that's one issue there that we saw, Garnacho liking his tweets. Another story doing the rounds was this rift apparently with Anthony. Anthony was reportedly fit on Friday, yet didn't play. Now, Insider United, who has been on the money with a lot of info when it comes to players, whether it comes to training, when it comes to their fitness, I think they've said Insider United they're going to stop doing this at the end of the season because they don't want to cause trouble for United. If they're leaking information, it could cause trouble. They're a United fan. I've spoken to them a couple of times via DMs, and they're as passionate United fan as I am. They just seem to have this info, and they're like, look, I'm here to share some information. I don't want it to be viewed as being detrimental to the club, so I'm taking a step back next season, which I respect. You don't have to do that. You can carry on doing what you're doing. If you're getting info, it's up to you what you do with it. Anyway, so you can see here, Anthony was 100% fit after Friday's team sessions. Whether he got an illness that ruled him out of yesterday's game, obviously this was tweeted on Sunday, I don't know. Not hearing any news of fallout between him and management as of yet, so won't make up anything or speculate. Now, he's not making anything. He's giving you what he knows, that Anthony was fit after the Friday's session. There are reports that Anthony and ten Hag have fell out, that Anthony's unhappy with the amount of games he's getting, or the lack of games he's getting. Now, again, it's weird, isn't it? Because you go, well, we don't know if that's true. It could be, it could not. If, and it's a big if because we don't know. If Anthony's upset at not getting picked, then I don't mind being unhappy at not getting picked. I get that. But if you're upset to the point where the manager can't even put you in the squad, then that's too much. Because Anthony's got to have a little bit of self-awareness if, and I keep using the word if because I don't know, if there is an issue here. Because yes, you scored against Liverpool in the FA Cup. Yes, you scored against Newport County in the FA Cup, and you did well against Chelsea. I thought he played very well against Chelsea, and I've been a critic of Anthony. I thought that was probably his best game in the United shirt. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're 100% guaranteed to start now. I personally wouldn't mind seeing Anthony starting. I know that sounds crazy after the amount of criticism I'm giving, but I look at some of the other players at the minute, and it's just not happening for him. And I think with Anthony, at least he's in a decent bit of form. So, had he started against Bournemouth, I wouldn't have minded that too much. However, he didn't. And the question is, why didn't he? Was it because he's had a fallout with the manager, or was it because he fell ill? If we get any update on that, we will let you know. Let me know what you think. Get involved in the chat and the comments. Hit that like button. I'm curious, what's the sort of mood with everyone when it comes to these reports, rumours? Are you sort of backing these players? Do you think it's a storm in the teacup? Are you angry at these players? Are you angry with Ten Hag? Do you think he's mismanaged players? Let me know. We know what happened with Jadon Sancho. That became untenable to the point where Jadon Sancho was eating his packed lunch with the kids in the Carrington and having to lock doors every time he got changed and all this other nonsense. He went to Dortmund. I think that was a lot more of an overt fallout because Sancho basically tweeted his unhappiness, didn't apologise. We heard the rest of it. Now, at the time, I think most people, myself included, were looking at it and go, okay, he's brought discipline to this club. Jadon Sancho hasn't been playing as well as he can do. Fair enough. However, now, I don't know. Is the tide turning a little bit in fan opinion? Let me know what you think. Colonel Sternlove says we need 2 midfielders if Eriksen, Casemiro and Amrabat leave. Amrabat's on loan, I think, innit, to the end of the season. I'd be stunned if he got that extended, if we made that a permanent deal. Casemiro's a funny one, isn't it? Not been great. Is this the decline of Casemiro? Is this the end of him? Is this a blip? You let me know what you think. Brian Casey says, morning Jay, hope you're well. Been too long since we had the news live. Matt Gregory said, sick of these players. Ross Murphy says, morning Jay. Oh, sorry, I'm just reading Brian Casey's one. Says, if Anthony's unhappy, then he needs to get a grip. His performances this season have not been good enough. Force the issue. I always say that with players. Force your way into the team. A manager will pick a player who he thinks will win him a football match. He will. He'll definitely pick a player that he spent 80 million quid on who he thinks will win him a football match. So you can force that issue. You can force your way into the team. It's happened so many times at Manchester United. Going back as long as I've supported Manchester United, going back to the Fergie days, where players forced the issue, they forced the way into the team. Garnacho did it. He forced his way into the team with his performances. And it's quite ironic now because there's rumours that Garnacho went happy, but he did. He was 18, 19 years old. He got in the team ahead of an £80 million signing. It can be done if you perform at a good level, consistently as well. That's the one sort of issue I would have with Anthony if he has spat his dummy out. You've had 3 or 4 good games. Just keep going. Keep performing well. If you're not in the team, right, okay, sit on the bench. When you come off the bench, show the manager why he's made a mistake. Imagine if we went back and like players like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said he spat the dummy out because he weren't getting started and left or refused to be part of the squad. We might not have won the treble. Come on. Joshua Bowater says the players behaving the way they makes me back Erik ten Hag more. I think the lunatics have been running the asylum for far too long. I get this. We have these same issues year in, year out, don't we? And I get it when you go, when are United going to just stop and go, right, do you know what? No, that's enough. The issue is, Erik ten Hag is not in a position of sort of great power at the minute. The results are poor. We're miles away from top 4. Forget about a league title challenge. That's never materialised. Can the FA Cup save him? Akash Paul has gifted 5 Paddock memberships. That is brilliant. Thank you. Extra content on the members section. A big shout out to Akash Paul. Appreciate that. Appreciate you gifting memberships. Top man. Ishan Tiwari says, tired of players losing trust in the manager. Lazy, talentless fools. People taking advantage of those memberships that Akash Paul's gifted. David Mean says most of them are on big wages and they're taking the mickey with their lack of effort on match days. Grow up, lads. Grow up. Get a grip. Come on. Do what you need to do. I want to get back to the point where it seems like a million miles away, done it 10 years ago, where players gave the role for Manchester United non-stop. If they weren't in the team, they fought to get back in the team. They were happy to be rotated. I've seen some of the best players I've ever seen, not just at United, in football, who would get rotated. I know it's a different time because we were winning titles and Champions Leagues and all that. But when they got rotated or when they got dropped or rested or whatever you want to call it, they fought their way back in the team. We've seen it recently. We've seen it with players. We've seen players sort of stay at this club and keep getting in the team and keep fighting to get back in the team. Harry Maguire did it earlier this season. There's one for you. Harry Maguire. Don't have to go that far back. Harry Maguire was getting absolute pelters off everyone. Not good enough. Duffer. Get rid of him. Go to Newcastle. Go to West Ham, wherever he's linked with. Just sell him. We didn't. We kept him. Varane and Martinez are the centre-back pairing. Then you've got Luke Shaw. We don't need Harry Maguire. What happens? Varane's injured. Martinez is injured. Shaw's injured. Harry Maguire gets a chance. Player of the month in November. I'm not saying he's perfect. I don't even think we should probably keep him. I think he probably needs to go in the summer. But he fought to get back in a team and did a very good job for Manchester United. I respect that. I do. That's what I want to see from players. Let me know what you think. Akash Paul, big thank you again to you for sending those memberships. This is very much clear Oh, sorry, this much is very clear. Erik ten Hag has lost sections of the dressing room. I've been underwhelmed with Erik ten Hag's squad management, but sacking him is not the way. Yeah, let me know. Just, what do you reckon? Two things, I keep saying this because it's true. Two things could be true. You might not really rate Erik ten Hag. You might not quite think he's the man for the job. And you might be annoyed and think some of these players are prima donnas who need to put the big boy pants on and grow up. Yeah? Those two things can be true. It's not like they're mutually exclusive. Let me know what you think. Amy Webb 321 says some of the women's players are on the outs with their manager Skinner, but they still gave their all yesterday and beat Chelsea for the first time ever to reach the cup final. Well done to Manchester United women. They're in the cup final. Brilliant, beating Chelsea 2-1. So well done to them. Hopefully the men's team can follow suit this weekend and beat Coventry City. We're going to be back later on with the Paddock podcast, so make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe for that one. Also, during this week, we're going to have all the stuff you know and love. We're going to have House and Verses, we're going to have Off the Bar, we're going to have Uncensored, we're going to have all that good stuff. Then we'll be looking ahead towards the Coventry game as well. So make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Hit that like button as well, please, people. I've been Jay Motty. This has been a Paper Talk live from the studio. Thanks for watching.